Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to ECUS, the Economics Canvas Hub series. Our purpose is to engender and enlighten students as seen through the eyes of our former students who've taken economics at Chabot College.
Hello, everybody. I want to welcome Naseem here, who graciously agreed to be interviewed to tell us about her experiences with Chabot, her career, and in particular with economics class. So what I wanted to do is first welcome you, Naseem. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So why don't you just catch up fellow students to maybe something about yourself, where you grew up, your academic life, and your career up to date. Maybe if that's not enough, that's a lot to chew on, but I think you can handle it. So why don't you catch everybody up with what you've been doing, what you've done?
Sure. I'm originally from Sacramento. I grew up in a first-generation family, immigrant family. So was a lot of focus on academics and being excellent at at everything we did and put our mind to.
And where did your family come from?
So my father is from Iran,
Okay.
and my mother is from Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to Berkeley undergrad, and upon graduating, I worked for AT&T. And when I was at AT&T, I was having these feelings of making a change and going to grad school. And so I had a desire to go to business school. And when I was at UC Berkeley, there was a one particular class, it was economics, that I didn't do very well in. When you think about, as a kid and you're striving for excellence, and you were that A student and whatnot, and then you go to a really great university, and the first time ever in my life, I got a C. My very first C was in university at UC Berkeley. I'm announcing this to everybody. I remember feeling so much shame, and like I was this failure, and that I didn't understand economics. And I'm sharing this because that's how I ended up at Chabot. Was I wanted to, I had a desire to retake that course again, and prove to myself that I didn't do well at UC Berkeley, but it's not that I didn't understand economics. It's just I had a desire. After taking that course and a few other courses, I ended up applying to business school. I went to Indiana University, and I majored in marketing. I got my MBA. When I was at IU, I interned for Walmart, where I was doing sustainability marketing. And then when I graduated, I worked for Johnson & Johnson. I did marketing and sales roles there for the OTC business. And I was in Philadelphia at the time. I then decided to make the move back to California. And I've been working for Gilead ever since 2015 for the last 5.5 years in pharmaceutical marketing.
Okay, so one of the things that I would love to know about is why you chose Chabot. And I always think of community colleges as kind of a tool that can build many different things for many different people. And everybody comes to a community college in some respects for a different purpose. And I would be really, really interested to know why you not necessarily took an economics class, but why you went to Chabot in general.
Okay. Well, so just to back up, at the time, I went to Chabot because it was convenience. It was where I lived in San Ramon at the time, and Chabot was nearby. Again, just being honest. I chose Chabot because I go back to, there was a course that I felt like I needed to focus on, an area of focus for me, and that was in economics. I didn't do well in economics at UC Berkeley, and it was something for me that I really wanted to focus on, and in many respects, I signed up for a class. I ended up in your class, Martin, and I have to say, and I mean this, you're not paying me to say this. It was one of the best classes, and it was your passion for economics. I remember I was sitting there in the front row taking notes. It was so great. I'm being honest, I went in there thinking, oh, I need to check this box because I feel like, I need this for a college application or a master's application. And when I went through the process, it wasn't about box checking anymore. It was, I came to the realization that Chabot was a place where I could learn and not feel like it's performative, like it's for myself. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And
yeah,
I actually do distinctively remember you in my class. And this was how many years ago?
This was 12 years
ago. So let me tell you something. And if you would have asked me, I remember distinctly you coming to me after class, well, more than one time after class, asking questions. I could have told you your future. I could have. And the fortune telling I would have given you would have been extremely positive. And I'll tell you why. There's two things that I figure are the most predictive signals for success. And I'm not just talking about career success. I'm just is honest curiosity and enthusiasm. And the reason why is I've developed this technique of detecting honest enthusiasm. When you were asking questions, and I still remember this, you were honestly asking for information, and you did not make any pretenses about what you did or did not know. And that's very, very important for success, in my opinion. Is you wanted to know something, and you didn't let ego or insecurities, which all of us do. We all feel insecure about what we don't know, right? And you were asking questions, and then the way you were receiving the information was with enthusiasm. And when you combine those two things, you get success. And that's how I contacted you. I contacted you because I distinctly remember that. And I felt very fortunate that you reached out to me via LinkedIn, so I could reach out to you at some point, because I had a feeling even back then that I probably will reach out to you to try to use that experience I've had and to show others that if you just approach things with honesty and enthusiasm, good things will come to you. And so
that's so sweet, because it's interesting. I felt like when I was at a big university and the stakes were high, and I loved my time at UC Berkeley. I would never, ever take that away. But there was this pressure, right? This pressure to perform, and even my intention in going into Chabot was, if I were to be really honest with myself, was I should probably check this box. And it wasn't until I got there and until I sat in your classroom that it changed my mind. Like you helped open me in ways that I don't think I don't think a big university when the tuition is expensive, you know what I mean? You're feeling like you have to get through things, or you're feeling like you have to get through life. This was a juncture where the stakes in my mind felt low enough where I had the ability and the opportunity to be curious and to explore. And you open that to all of us. So thank you for giving us that gift.
You're very much welcome. And what particular, I mean, what was it about economics that interested you? And I would be really interested to know if it helped you academically or professionally, and what aspects of it did help you.
I think so. Again, I go back to, it was, my intention was, oh gosh, I got my first C in economics. I've got to, like that was my intention. I need to go check this box. When I was in the class, I think what helped me, and again, it was 12 years ago, you were able to relate theory to what was happening in reality. So it wasn't just, like the supply and demand curve, and this is what happens if you change something, but you had the ability, or you did this in connecting it to what was going on in the economy, either currently or what had gone on in the economy, within the last couple years. I think we were in 2009, right? So the first downturn, and you were able to relate that in a way that made sense to me, if that makes sense. I don't remember the exact, like the specifics. I just remember you being able to, or the class being able to, like we were able to have discussions and have it in a way that is beyond theory and relating it to reality.
And the reality was something, rather intense at the time, because this was a 2008 recession, right?
That's correct. That was correct. It was a recession. I was seeing it. We had layoffs at AT&T. At that time, I had friends who were getting laid off. I had friends who couldn't get a job, like that were, at that time were younger than me, and they were just graduating, couldn't find a job, right? Like there were all of these things happening, and like that course enabled me to put the theory with the reality and bring it together, so that at least there's a little bit more understanding of the world, right?
And did that understanding help calm you a little bit, or did it frighten you?
I don't think it was, I think I would say it was more of, maybe it was more calming.
Just to know what was happening around you,
Right, because oftentimes, and I would say more so than ever, the media dramatizes everything, right? Yeah. And then your world is, your world is like so insular. And I do, being in that class, it just exposed me to something different, right? And even the students in the class, everybody came from just a different, it's just a different walk of life. Like I would have never come across you. I would have never come across, the peers who made comments, right? Ever, just given my life, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm a firm believer in continuing your education, not just to check a box, but to just advance advance yourself, and opening up, I don't want to say opening up your eyes, but in learning. Yeah. And Chabot is a place to do that. Okay. Chabot is an excellent place to do that. And I found my experiences quite positive.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to get your insights on is how economics has impacted you professionally, because I've looked at your resume. I've been following your career on LinkedIn, and I know that you have you do important work. And if you could tell our audience, what you do, and maybe just a little bit how economics has impacted the way you work as an executive, I think that could be very helpful to them.
Absolutely. So I am the director of marketing of physician marketing, HCP marketing, for a pharmaceutical company, and I call Gilead. And I, economics absolutely plays a large role in my work. So economics is the study of choice based on scarcity and resources. And in marketing, we're given a budget, right? And to spend. And so you've got limited resources to make maximum impact. And the work that I am in is in prevention, HIV prevention. And so our goal is to help eradicate HIV. And if we are not choiceful with our resources, our impact is less. So it's always about making decisions and choices that will result in maximal impact. And I think that's where economics does play a role.
Yeah, and I think one of the most common misconceptions is they think of economics in strictly business related terms or profit related terms, right? And sure, you could use economics to make money, but that's not necessarily everyone's primary goal, right? And I think you're an embodiment of using the discipline to achieve a goal, and I must say a rather worthy goal. And it's no different, right? It's all depends about what you want, right?
Correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the things I tell students is, and they don't realize this, is there's a spiritual aspect to economics, right? Because if in economics is a study of choice, and you can't make a choice until you know what you want, the question is, how do you know what you want? And the only way you know what you want is if you know yourself, right? And that's a spiritual element out of it. And I have a feeling you get some deep satisfaction from your work, right?
Absolutely. It took me a while to figure out that healthcare marketing was my lane and is my passion, is something that I love. And you're right, that by making that choice, it's saying no, to other paths, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So one other question I wanted to ask you is, what advice could you give to a fellow student or a current student at Chabot right now?
I would say I was so focused on initially I was, just being very truthful, focused on checking a box. And the advice I would have is, okay, yes, you're checking a box, and enjoy the process while you're doing it, right? Take the courses and the classes with intention. When I say come in with an open mind, come in not to just get a specific letter grade, but to really get something out of it, not only from the coursework itself, but even getting to know your peers or your instructor, and use that as an opportunity to absorb and learn. Because for many of us, it's, the time in Chabot, and we're all there for different reasons. And for many of us, it is a transition time, right? It's not forever. And even if it is for a short period of time, there is a lot that you can get out of it. So that would be my advice. And I would have never guessed that 12 years from now, or years into the future that, you and me, Martin, we've and staying in touch.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with that going in with a growth mentality and keeping an open mind.
No, I think that's sound advice. And what's kind of that circular angle to this is you were once my student, and Ken Williams, who's a senior instructor here at Chabot, he was my instructor at Chabot. So that was a little bit longer than 12 years ago, but no, I think that you are symbolic of what the community college system is there for. You got something of value from it, and it's accessible to as many people as can be. And in particular, I think you got something out of the economics class that you still take with you to this day. And that's the whole point of this economics hub, is to point out the value of the education provided at Chabot, and in particular, the economics classes that are provided to them. So I really appreciate you spending the time and letting us know about this. I think everybody who's watched this are better for it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's where we'll leave it for now. And make sure you watch all the videos on the hub.